Welcome to Smalltalk Daily for Wednesday, April 8th, 2009. This morning I'd like to go back to ObjectStudio and show you how to build a simple model. What we're going to do is go to the File, New Model option, and we're going to build a break-even model. The idea here is we have some components we want to price out and figure out at what point can we price things such that they're break-even and at what point are we losing money or making money. So we're going to assign a bunch of variables. We'll have one called fixed cost. Just hit return. We'll have another one called variable cost. We'll have another one called total cost. And we'll have another one called quantity, because that's the important one as far as our unknowns go. Then we'll have unit price. And then we'll have total price. Now at this point we've defined all the variables we need, so we'll just hit cancel on this. And now all we need to do is start assigning values to these. So we'll take the fixed cost and we'll say, well, your fixed cost is $5,000. So that assigns that value. Now we go ahead and find variable cost, and we'll assign a value, say, of 50 to that. And you notice how they pop up down here once I assign values to them. Now let's take unit price, and we'll assign a fixed price of 75 to that. And now we're going to make the others dependent on the other costs we've already entered. And you can enter formulas in here just as if it was a spreadsheet. So let's say fixed cost plus, and notice we have to use the parentheses because we're going to do multiplication here, quantity times variable cost. And that puts that in there. And then we're going to also assign the same kind of formula to total price. So we'll select that, and we'll say that equals quantity times unit price. And that pretty much defines our model. So you see that we've got things like this. Let's select this. You see we've got down here the variables defined. So at this point we can go to graph, set up graph, and we can decide how we want this to look in terms of our pricing. So let's select these three things here. And now what we'll do is we'll assign a stop value of 300 to the graph, and then we'll hit OK and see what we get. So now you see this. Let's make this a little bigger so it's a little obvious what's going on. And you can see the crossover point is down here. So you can see where these things cross over and where we get our break-even point on the graph. Now you can also do this kind of thing in code if you'd rather do that. So let's close this down. And we want to save our changes, so we'll just call this Model 1. And you see it's right here, so we can always go back to it. So there it is. Now it turns out you can do the same kind of thing in code. It might have been better if I had saved this as break-even instead of Model 1. I picked kind of a nonsensical name. But if you go ahead and plug in values here the same way you would have when we were pulling up this. So here, when I did this, we plugged all these values into this using this form. We can do the same thing in code like this, and then we can just do, well, let's bring up the transcript so you can see what's going to happen. So I'll pop a transcript up, put it down here, and now let's just execute this, Smalltalk execute, and notice it tells us that the break-even given these inputs is at a quantity of 200. So given the inputs I've given it, we have to sell at least 200 units at this pricing points that I've picked, and everything will work out. So idea of how the modeling works in ObjectStudio. You can work with this without really knowing a heck of a lot about Smalltalk. You could have somebody working with a developer, a business analyst, and just have them walk through something like this, and then the Smalltalk developer could pick it all up and build an application based on these kinds of inputs. So that's pretty much what ObjectStudio is good for. That's one of the real strengths of this product, and I thought you'd like to have a look at it. So until next time, have fun with Smalltalk.